Like I said, this is the first event, and we're going to start off with story and what makes a story. And intuitively, we all know what a story is and what makes a story. But when you start to think about it and try to plan it out, a lot of times we can run into some stumbling blocks because we're so used to it just either receiving the story or taking in the story. Trying to replicate that can be challenging. So we're going to go through a couple points, a couple concepts about what story is, what pre-production is. And hopefully this will be something that you guys can build off of as you're working through these workshops to the K-State 48 Film Festival kickoff. So the production phases, I thought I would just start with here. Basically, there's 3 phases within every production that you do. There's your pre-production, there's your actual production, that's like getting your filming, getting your gear, and actually shooting your production. And then there's post-production, right? That's like editing and color correction and sound editing, and we're going to have workshops in all of these areas. So why bother with pre-production? I think a lot of people say, okay, pre-production, it's kind of boring. I don't really want to, I just want to go out and shoot, right? I just want to get my camera and I want to go out and shoot. And certainly on the K-State 48 Film Festival, you only have 48 hours, right? Why would you take an hour? Why would you take 2 hours to sit and think about what you want to do first? Well, there's some really good things for that. It's really the most important part of the production process is the pre-production process, because it's going to save you time, it's going to save you effort later on. And it's going to ensure that your concept that you're trying to do, it's sound, and that you have all the materials needed for that. So taking a moment to think about what you're trying to do, think about your story in advance, is going to really pay off in the end. So the production model. Begin with an idea. As you're in these groups and as you're coming up with what you want to do, start with an idea. What is it that you want to accomplish with your short film? What do you want to say? What do you want people to feel? These are all really important things to kind of have figured out before you even hit the ground running. 2 processes with pre-production. You're taking your idea and making it into a script or outline or some storyboards. All that's considered pre-production. And then you're taking that and putting it to film. Okay, so it's really just 2 simple processes. Idea to script, script to film. With your idea to your script, you're refining your story, you're narrowing it down, you're testing it, you're talking with your friends and say, okay, so we want to do this story about maybe somebody who's homeless, or and maybe you're already thinking about some ideas. I don't know. As you're working in your group, so take that idea and say, okay, what do we need and what don't we need? And just really whittle it down to just the bare essentials. And then think about, okay, we have 48 hours to do this. Can we actually do what we want to do? You know, I'd say that if you're trying to do an epic car chase, you know, slow motion thingy, maybe it's not within 48 hours, maybe it's not feasible. But maybe a simple story about your neighbor possibly is. So think about what you have time for and work that backwards. So saying all that, what actually goes into a story? This is from Still Motion. And Still Motion is it's a marketing entity, but they really understand what story is. So the 4 Ps, right? People, places, plot, and purpose. And I think that what they say about being able to encapsulate that into 1 sentence is very helpful for you guys, right? I mean, if you can do that within the context of the 48-hour film festival, I think it's going to take you a long way. Why are we doing this? What's the purpose of that? And that's going to really, I think, get you started. So in addition to the 4 Ps, if you're doing something that's very narrative, you're always, with every story that you tell, really, you're going to have a beginning, middle, and end. And it sounds pretty simple, but taking people on a journey, especially through that middle part, can be difficult. Invariably, if you watch a movie, a lot of times you'll have your beginning part and your climax, your conclusion. You know, they're great, you know, but in the middle it tends to bog down. You get bored, you start looking at your cell phone, you go for drinks or whatever. That middle part's really hard to keep that afloat. With any narrative story that you're doing, you're always going to have 3 parts to it, right? This is your setup, your introduction of characters. Right here, you're going to have an incident, and really it's called an inciting incident, and that's what kind of draws your main character into the story. This is your first major plot point that's going to really propel you into the second act. And as you can see, throughout this whole time, you're just building up tension. You're building up tension, right? And this is all just really confrontation. This is just difficulties that your major character is facing, is going through. You hit plot point 2, and then the rest of your act is a resolution, is how you're solving the problem that you're setting up here, right? Let's take Star Wars. So you're set up here. You have Luke Skywalker. He wants to be a pilot. He wants to be better than who he is. He has all these ambitions, but he's stuck farming with his uncle Owen, right? So there's an inciting incident here. He's brought into the story, right? How's he brought into the story? He finds droids, right? He purchases these droids, and then the droid wanders off. And so he goes chasing that droid, right? C-3PO, or no, R2-D2, right? Goes wandering off into the desert. So Luke Skywalker is brought into that journey trying to find that droid, and he runs into Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then the rest of the story takes off. But that's the point at which he's drawn into the story. So generally speaking, on a 3-act structure like this, even on a short, like and we're asking between 2 and 6 minutes on the 48-hour film festival, you're going to have your character, you're kind of setting it up, and then they're going to be drawn into the story by some kind of incident. And then they're off. They're trying to solve this conclusion, this problem. And that's what your main part of Act 2 is right here. It's the confrontation that they're having. So kind of the same thing, but maybe a little bit clearer. Act 1, you're setting up your character. There's an incident that pulls them into the story. Turning point number 1 is kind of another major thing that really propels your character on their journey forward. Act 2, here's your midpoint. That's usually a time for your character that everything generally turns the world upside down for your characters, right? It's the point in which they're at maybe their lowest, and you're just continuing that narrative tension, and you're getting to your turning point number 2. That's going to be another thing that propels you forward into your Act 3, and then your resolution, and then your climax. So, I mean, generally speaking, within a short film, it's really condensed, right? I mean, but this structure is there, especially on a narrative film. So if you could find ways of taking this and trying to incorporate in what you're doing and what you're planning, and even on a documentary, you're still going to have your setup, your introduction of characters, you're going to present your problem that they're going through, and then there's going to be a resolution to that story. So there's always going to be a beginning, middle, and end, and you're always going to have your character drawn into a conflict. The tension escalates over the entire arc of your story. Midpoint usually is really kind of a dark time for your character, and then this escalating tension. And then your resolution, and this is the climax of the story. The end of your resolution is that climax of the story. You know, this is not absolute, and of course, people, when they're developing films, they can have a non-traditional approach to all this, but this is a good structure to kind of start off with. And if you can do this, then you can break all the rules, right? So know the rules before you can break the rules. So you've got your story, you've whittled it down, you have a basic structure for how you want to house that story. You know your characters, you know your plot basics, and you have a purpose for doing what you want to do, right? If you can do all that, start to write. And by no means, this is a 48-hour film festival. You only have 2 days. You can't write like a 10-page script. You're not going to have time to do that. But you guys can outline an idea of what you want to do and some ordering of some sequences, right? This is just an example. This is something more of a, for like a commercial, what you would do. Kind of divide up your video, divide up your audio, have some basic explanation on one side of what's going on, and then having some narration on the other side. So this is the scripter, this is your scenes, who's in what, and what they're doing, and then dialogue that corresponds to it. That's an idea. You can certainly do something like that if you guys have time. But I would say just doing kind of a shot list would be really, really helpful for you guys. And hopefully you're working in groups, they're trying to get all this accomplished, because as you can see, there's a lot of moving parts to this. So having an idea of like your main characters, your places, what they're doing, and what kind of shots you want to, and let me just kind of break this down a little bit, because this is interior versus exterior, right? It just so happens that this whole thing is an interior production piece. The shot type, medium shot, wide shot, close up. They'll get into that with you guys on one of the later workshops. Here's your characters, and I'm just abbreviated them, right? And then a description of the action. So something simple like this, I think, will work well for you. And what I'll do is I will post this PDF on the 48-hour film festival website so you guys can refer to this and use this. So let me ask you guys, part of this, we're going to throw three things at you that are completely random, right? It's going to be, one of them is going to be a place, one of them is going to be a line dialogue, and one of them is going to be a character. Is that right?
Or a prop, have a prop.
Yeah, let's say prop. All right. So let me just take some give me a random prop.
Potato.
Potato. You can do so much with potato. That's awesome.
Okay.
I like it.
That's where it's cold in that.
Yeah, no, I was like, what? You don't like?
No, potatoes are awesome.
Okay.
No, I'm a potato fan. All right, place. Give me like the most random place that would be here within this area.
A basement?
Basement of where?
You do that bell in front of Blue Mountain.
Oh, Bell in front of Blue Pond. Okay, that's cool. Let's do, here's a basement, and the bell in front of Bluemont. Okay, and let's have a witty line of dialogue.
I was gonna say Bazinga.
Bazinga! I like it. Is it spelled how it sounds?
Yeah. Have you seen The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Sheldon Cooper says.
Bazinga. All right. Potato. Basement. Bazinga. So how in the world are you going to craft a story around that? Let's say you have a character. We'll have a K-State student, right? We all know K-State student life. Whereas we'll say we have let's say we have a student, and we'll start from there. Okay. 1, 2, 3, right? So we have our people. We have K-State student, right? We have our place as a basement. At least that's one of the locations. We don't have our plot. That's what we're missing. That's why we can't proceed forward, right? We were missing our plot and then our purpose. So let's talk about those final two P's. What's some ideas of what we could do to take this student on some kind of journey? With a potato in a basement that says Bazinga.
Why don't you get maybe 3 character traits? Is it a guy, is it a girl? What's 3 random things about the person that makes them unique?
Let's say that the student is about to graduate. Okay? And let's say that the student is, how about a girl? Okay? And I think that's good. Girl, about to graduate. Okay? How about some, and you of course can interject at any time here, Rusty.
Questions for them.
Yeah.
What's something odd? Give me something odd about this girl. Not a terrible thing, but something odd about her.
She's about to graduate, and for her final project, she's an agronomy student, and she made like a GMO potato, and now she's lost it.
A GMO potato?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So now you have something that you're searching for. That's your conflict, right? So you've given yourself some purpose. Okay?
Maybe it's like a comedic mystery, and so she's trying to find this potato, figure out like who stole it. or something.
Who stole the
potato?
the GMO potato? Okay. Right. So the purpose is to find the potato, but what's going to hold that character back from finding the potato?
Well, she's gonna have to do a thing where like she sets up like a table, and has the lamp shining there, and she like brings her roommate down, like interrogating like her roommates, and it's like, where is the potato?
There you go.
Like that.
There you go. So you have a scene. You just constructed a whole scene. Excellent. Okay. Anybody else who's really blocking that person from finding that GMO potato?
Maybe like plot twist. It's a teacher that doesn't want her to graduate.
Ah,
So
there you go.
Yeah, so you could set it up like she's looking for it and they're distracting her and you're like, oh, she's just getting distracted by this teacher, but later you can find out there was a reason for that distraction.
There you go. Okay, kind of reversal of fortune. That's interesting. I like that. Okay. All right, excellent. So, that's not going to work. There we go. Okay. GMO potato. Let's be clear about that. And then, did we incorporate the basement?
That can be the place where she interrogates them.
Okay. Interrogation scene. So, as far as your men right there. Where would you see on the spectrum that interrogation scene might be? Is that going to be like your?
It would probably be in the middle, because like the big plot point at the beginning that goes from the exposition to the middle could be her finding out the potato is missing, and then you go into that, and
Okay.
so she's going through suspects like who could have done it.
Okay.
My roommate, and then she sets up the whole thing, and it could be in the middle of it.
Okay, so this is like potato interrogation scene.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say that she's drawn into the story because she realizes that the potato's missing. Okay, and you're introduced to her here. How are we going to resolve this?
maybe like the teacher slips up with her, like you said, she was kind of helping her, like, oh, well, maybe someone else took it. Maybe she ends up slipping up and gives away that like she's responsible for it missing.
Okay.
So there's like
And
clues.
catches her, yeah, like, and so she catches her in her like miswording or something.
All right,
Yeah.
clues. That's really good. So you're gonna, basically within here, you're going to have all these clues that she's kind of following and finding that kind of propels her forward, and then ultimately she confronts this teacher, right? Has a resolution of that, and in the end, she's become reunited with the GMO potato, right? So it's it's hard to do, of course, when there's like kind of random things thrown at you. But I mean, this is kind of what the process that you guys will go through before you even turn on your cameras, right? Trying to figure out a loose fitting story that really is going to encapsulate everything that you're looking to do.